So this is a follow-up to the video I did on the Dolby Atmos Music Curve. I got some pretty good questions about some things, and there's some things maybe I should have mentioned in the first one. So I'm just going to kind of answer some quick little things. Some of the questions that I got were related to more kind of post-production and video, like why is it called the music curve? Is there a curve for post-production? It opened a bunch of questions in my mind, and maybe for some other people. So I'm just going to read some stuff for you guys, and this is right out of some Dolby documents. This first document, this is the Dolby Atmos Home Entertainment Studio Technical Guidelines. And in general, with all the stuff for Dolby Atmos specs, things like that, they're not secret. Dolby isn't hiding them. You can get them right off of Dolby's website. They have great training available. They want people to work in this format. It's not behind some kind of a gatekeeper sort of thing. So the information is out there. You guys can search it, but this document in particular in 2.7.2 talks about speaker EQ. So this is a document that is aimed probably more at home entertainment in general, not specifically for music. So think more video related, maybe video games. So 2.7.2 speaker EQ. Acoustic room treatment should be installed to address any acoustical problems. Corrective speaker EQ should also be applied if room coloration remains. Target curves should be applied as relevant. For rooms with volume exceeding 125 meters cubed, approximately 4,400 cubic feet, we recommend applying the modified X-curve standard. You can refer to SMPTE 222, 1994. That's where that X curve is. So the music curve is recommended specifically for music studios. The post-production studios in general, in my experience in that world, they tend to be a little more on top of the calibration game. Like calibration isn't really as much of a new thing for a lot of post houses. Whereas with music studios, I think this idea and concept of calibrating things, it's not a generally known or done thing. I think there are more studios that do it today than like when I was an intern in the 90s, but it's still kind of a thing that I don't see nearly as much of. You know, with music studios, a lot of us who are doing music, especially these days, we're not in commercial facilities anymore. It's a lot of people setting up in spare rooms of their house or building a studio in their house or maybe in the garage, things like that. It's a little bit more of the kind of Wild West. It's a little more rock and roll to me, where we're going to set up and just make it work. So I think, and this is just my opinion, I think Dolby, they're trying to help with translation and getting things a little more standardized than maybe music studios have been making use of in the past. Over on professionalsupport.dolby.com, they have a music room calibration FAQ, and one of the questions on there is, why is the music curve the shape it is? And it says, the curve was developed through empirical testing and designed to relate to typical speakers and responses in mixed rooms. Of course, there's substantial variation across stereo rooms today, so the curve doesn't necessarily align directly with any particular speaker or room combination. The low-frequency boost was seen in a number of existing stereo rooms, and the high-frequency roll-off relates to the balance of direct and reverberant sound in a room that is similar in size to the recommendations in their document, The Best Practices for Music Room Configuration. It's another Dolby document worth checking out if you're getting into Atmos. Let me continue with what it says. If you are mixing in a room that is substantially larger or smaller than the recommended dimensions, then you may wish to apply a steeper or shallower roll-off than defined in the target curve. So even with the music curve, Dolby, they're flexible. It's a recommendation. It's guidelines. So you have to kind of adapt things a little bit. I think the bottom line, though, with the calibration curve is it is an attempt to sort of neutralize your room and your speakers in that room so that the speakers are not coloring what you're mixing. And this kind of plays into what I was trained on when I was learning how to calibrate and tune large sound systems. We want that system to be, I don't know that transparent's the right word, but neutral. We don't want the system to color things. We want to be making all the decisions on the console for the mix, and then the speakers are just basically amplifying that so that you can listen to it. Other questions were, how did I get the music curve? Again, not a secret from Dolby. In their document, the Dolby Atmos Music Room Best Practices for Music Room Configuration. Again, all of these documents, they're available on Dolby's website. You might have to do a search to find them. You could probably input the title into Google and it would tell you. But in their document, and maybe I'll pull up a little capture, they explain the target curve in there. What does it say? Near-field rooms should use a target curve that is flat from 160 hertz to 1.6 kilohertz, and then it's 1.5 dB down per octave from 1.6K to 10K, and then you go with a final downward deflection above 10 kilohertz, you want to go 3 dB down per octave. With that information, if you have something like Smart or another analyzer where you can create a curve, you can create this curve. Last thing in there, a plus 1 dB rise below 160 hertz is also utilized as seen in the picture of the curve that they show. In my personal experience, I think 1 dB is not enough. As you saw in the thing, I actually had somebody over in my studio just the other day listening, and they were commenting on how awesome the low end was and how balanced it felt. So, once again, my opinion is not enough low end, but what do I know? I would, like I said in the other video, I would start with Dolby's recommendations. I always say start there, but as they even state in some of their documents, you can make adjustments depending on the size of your room. You may need to make adjustments depending on the size of your room. Some of this is going to be taste. I would say use reference material to listen to things and see how things sound. In my studio, I am using the SonarWorks EQ'ed version of the Dolby Atmos Music Curve, which, as I showed in the previous video, was not quite the same as the music curve that Dolby lists, but it works great in my room, and I use it for all of the music production I do. I use it for any of the audio post-production I do for either videos, or I do some audiobooks every once in a while. So it's been working great for me for all of that. Things translate. My clients are happy. So that's just my experience on it. But anyways, I hope that answers some questions about the music curve. If you have additional questions about things, there's things I haven't covered, let me know. There's other Atmos topics you'd like me to talk about. Again, leave a comment. But thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.